This episode is sponsored by Bow Lake, the most beautiful paddle boards in the world. Visit bowlake.com and learn more. That's B-E-A-U lake.com. Bow is French for beautiful. B-E-A-U lake.com.
You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
The Casadei brand was founded in 1958 in an artisan workshop just outside of Rimini, Italy, where Flora and Quinto Casadei manufactured the first collection of sandals designed for tourists holidaying on the Italian Riviera. Nowadays, the Casadei brand is one of the largest exporters of made-in-Italy luxury shoes all over the world. Casadei designs its own heeled pumps, which have been favored by celebrities and models from Kate Blanchett and Taylor Swift to Lupita Nyong'o and Gigi Hadid, just to name a few. My guest on the luxury item is Arianna Casadei, the third generation of the founding family and newly appointed CEO of the 65-year-old brand. Arianna is also the daughter of creative director Cesare Casadei, who has been behind the brand style since the 1980s and responsible for elevating its international growth. Its blade heel style has become well known among footwear fans. Much of Arianna's experience comes from working within the family business, moving her way up in marketing and e-commerce roles, and is responsible for accelerating the digitalization of the company. She has also worked for other houses such as Alberta Ferretti and the Florentine multi-brand chain Luisa Villaroma. Welcome to the luxury item, Arianna.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here together.
Yeah, same here. Thanks for joining me. So the Milan Fashion Week was last month and Casadei presented its fall-winter 2023 collection. So how did it go?
It was great. It's always a great chance for us to talk about something that we love so deeply. And since 1958, when my grandparents founded the company, it's a chance to celebrate what my family loves the most. And shoes, of course.
So what did you showcase there? What was the theme?
A lot of our time together surrounds about shoes and meals that we share together. And often the two things actually are merged in one. And therefore, we wanted to share that family feeling with our customers and press friends. And therefore, there was a big round table setting with a meal based on shoes, of course. So everything ranging from flats to platforms, but our iconic element, the blade, at a special place within the setting because it turned into the super blade, a new heel side, and a new last as well, very pointy, looking back to the 90s, but without nostalgia, of course.
Looking at the whole entire show last month, what were some of the biggest trends that came out of it for you?
It's different because since the pandemic, the business slightly changed. From one end, there's something that we are very, well known from, and therefore formal attire, elegant shoes, something that is very for special occasions. On the other hand, we had a wide range of selection of shoes that you can wear from day to night, something that is very practical, metropolitan, something that you can wear every day. On top of that, we introduced the bag collection because it's something that we felt that was complementary and therefore, something that it was complementary to the look. However, we don't think that it's the case anymore. And the bags collection has a reason on its own to stand out. And therefore, it doesn't have to be matchy, but something special to add at your Casadei wardrobe.
So you were recently appointed to lead the brand as it marks its 65 years in business. Congratulations. And you're taking that role at a time when the global luxury goods market took a leap forward in 2022 with high-income households less affected by economic pressures and continuing to shop for luxury goods. So what is your number one focus as CEO?
Of course. I mean, when I joined the company, I was 22, and my first role within the company was taking over the e-commerce. And at the beginning, everybody thought that I was a little bit crazy, but right now, especially after the pandemic, we're definitely grateful for the push forward in terms of technology. Last year, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Blade with the launch of the NFT collection, and pushing forward the boundaries that we have in order to express our family heritage. Therefore, to be relevant in the market still today, I'm working on several different things, of course. So on one side, there's product, on the other, the communication, and then the sales department and production, since we produce everything in Italy. Even though it's a challenge, I would say that still today, in order to be relevant, we have to have like an orchestra. Every instrument has to play along, and to share that kind of message is my number one priority at the moment. Obviously, in terms of technology, we're always trying to stay on top of the new releases, because of course, as we push forward in terms of product, everything needs to be walking at the same pace.
And you've honed your skills in a variety of departments within the company. And you also worked for other houses such as Alberta Ferretti and Luisa Villaroma. What are some of the key things that you've learned growing up within the company and from outside the companies you worked for that helped you prepare for this role?
I would say that my number one mantra that I still have today, it's something that my granddad shared with me when I was 15. It was pretty scary as, as an informal meeting, because I was seated in his office and it was pretty formal, the arrangement, even though our conversation was anything but. And at some point, I was sharing, obviously, my life as a teenager, and out of nowhere, he asked me, "What would you like to do? What do you picture yourself doing in the future?" And at 15, I was like, I don't really know if this is actually what I want to pursue, because they have already had a path for me. I mean, my grandparents funded the company. My father took it on an international level. It was pretty challenging looking up to them. So I shared with him, honestly, my concerns. And he was like, "Ari, remember this every day of your life. It doesn't matter. I mean, in a company, it's not just one person that makes a difference, but the team, the collective of people that you surround yourself with. And your talent has to be humble, number one, but to recognize talents within other people and surround yourself with them." So that is something that I still have, you know, as a mantra, as I said before, every day in my life, and is to recognize the people that are better than me doing some other part of our job, and sharing that kind of message, because in a family-owned company, everyone makes a difference.
Yes. So since becoming CEO at the beginning of the year, have you started introducing some new ideas while still honoring things that have already been put in place?
Of course, for example, we have weekly manager meetings. I like to I'm coming from communication, and I think that internal and external communication has a vital role within every company. And therefore, I like for every person of the team to know where we're heading to, and to be updated with what we are, our next challenges are, in order to have everyone on board.
So Casadei has 2 physical stores in Italy and 1 in the UK. And with the US being a large online market for the brand, what are some of your most important global markets right now, and where do you see opportunities?
For sure, we do have pretty established awareness in Italy and Europe, since my grandparents started exporting in the early 60s. And looking back, it feels like ages ago. But as for now, definitely that's something that is still key as markets for now. We have an established business in the Eastern Europe, and we're looking to expand our business business online, especially in China and the US. We're putting in place a localized market, a stock market that we can have there in order to reach our customer in a much more efficient way.
Your father, creative director Cesare Casadei, has been behind the brand style since the 1980s and has elevated really to its international growth. How would you describe his design style?
When I was a little girl, actually, it changed so much the way that I see my father's work through the years, because obviously there was a phase when I was a little girl that looking my father, yeah, and baby eyes, it felt like it was the most fun work in the world, because it was grabbing like pieces from his daytime job, getting back home like with specific kind of leathers, special bows covered in crystals and so on. And everything that he created felt like it was, I don't know, kind of a game. Growing up, I started to understand that there was a very fine line between what he was doing and what he was passionate about, and translated that kind of inspiration into something that was material. For example, from one of his many travels, I was like 16, I believe, and I asked him for a specific perfume. And out of the top of the perfume, he actually kind of borrowed it for the season. And out of that, he created a heel. And I started to understand that his creative mind worked differently than everybody else, because he saw inspiration everywhere right now. And then when I joined the company, I added the kind of, let's say, mathematic purposes at his feet, because it was like creating an imaginary world where every woman felt like it was a dream. But in the end, we needed numbers, we needed data to evolve that kind of the way of thinking about the collections. And it has been a pretty inspiring back and forth, because I knew that we needed something to be more specific. For example, for the bridal collection, we created something together, a season, because we wanted to have bridal shoes that fit every woman and making her feel special, not only for the day, but also to wear that shoes later on. And therefore, having a man designing women's shoes is so interesting to see, because the first thing that he has to think about is that, does the women that want our collection want to shop, or is it just something that isn't necessary? And is this shoe perfect for every feet, or do I have to make adjustments? And along those lines, he creates season by season silhouettes that are always flattering and have the potential to make everyone feel at their best.
So how have women changed since the mid-'80s when your father started producing his own line, and how have women's shoes changed as a result of that?
I believe that going through the decades, for example, within our archive, you can definitely see not only the change in fashion, but the change in women needs and what they do every day. And it's so fascinating, because sometimes we just think that fashion is something that is a world of its own, but it's so deeply connected and reflects the kind of society that we're living in. If I have to summarize all that in one word, it would be freedom. For example, when I was a little girl and I used to come to the factory in order to see my family a little bit more,
right?
Everybody across the offices, they were wearing pumps, because it used to be the go-to shoe for formal attire and to go to work. No? On the other hand, while growing up, everything was mixed. I mean, we can see women right now wearing heels, mid heels, bikers, and sneakers, and everything accordingly to their own personalities. My husband always makes a joke, and he says, "You like to change so much that I'm going to understand which mood you're in accordingly to the shoes that you have that specific day." And obviously, it's definitely a part that defines my mood.
We'll be back after a quick break with more of my conversation with Arianna Casadei.
Bow Lake in Rocky Shore. I will return once more. Yes, I will. Boom, diddy, boom, boom. Boom, diddy, boom, boom, boom. All right.
The world's most beautiful paddleboards. Bow Lake. The water is calling.
We're back with more from Arianna Casadei. So what makes Casadei different from other shoe brands today? How does it position itself?
I would say that everyone has their own DNA, but for us, it's a family thing, a DNA, a passion, something that we, for the whole family, a leather, a heel, or a specific part of a shoe has always been an extension of our arm and hand. And therefore, sharing that tradition with the people that are currently working with us in production, it kind of reflects on the shoes that you're receiving at home. So I would say that once that you wear the shoes, they have two soles, one that's underneath and one that's inside your heart, and something that is, creating that dream to have women celebrate life and having a specific shoe for a specific moment. It reflects on the quality, research, and design that we put within every collection. For example, during the pandemic, we had call to actions and games within our community, and I was the one managing the answers because I wanted to get in touch with our community. And a lot of them, they were saying, "I cannot wait. I bought these shoes even though we are on a pandemic, and I bought super high heels because I want to celebrate." And for the majority of them, the synonym of celebration was going out partying with a great pair of shoes.
I was reading an interview with your father. He said, our job is a gamble. My parents always repeated the mantra, be at the service of women. It is their happiness that we can understand if we have done a good job. So do you think luxury brands have to work harder these days to deliver happiness and joy to the customer than in the past?
I just want to give you a little bit of a context about that mantra because right now we have, as I said before, every information that we need is basically something that we can gather from the data analytics of our e-commerce or like a digital analysis, basically. Back then, in order to receive these informations, and I know that from first-hand experience, you had to sit through a whole day within that specific shop or boutique or shoe floor and understand what women want in a way that reflects reflected in their eyes and in the way they wore while walking literally in their new pair of shoes. So today, it's easier to get all those informations, but at the same time, every woman and final customer is bombarded by many other messages. Therefore, I would say that in order to stay relevant, you have to believe in what you do 100% and keep on sharing the same values in a modern and contemporary way. So in order to answer to your question, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily easier now than before, just because we have more data, but it's something that we have to think about while doing our job on a daily basis.
I was reading an article recently where they interviewed the top buyers at some of the luxury retailers. I won't name the retailers. They were saying that the swiftness with which shoe trends are shifted has been unprecedented. from the sneaker boom to a post-lockdown party shoe craze to something for a normal daily lifestyle. Are you finding consumer preferences more challenging than they were pre-pandemic?
I would say that, as we talked before about freedom, and I would say that that reflects also in terms of creativity for us as a shoe brand. One thing was delivering shoes for a specific use. Another thing is to create something that is not as it hasn't been like the key item of Casadei since 1958, but venturing something new. And it's very exciting and interesting to be able to deliver something that has the same DNA season by season. So in my opinion, that swift change has been hectic during the last couple of years especially, but in a way it pushed the boundaries of creativity even more.
So last year, Casadei celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Blade, which has been a best-selling heel style for the brand. The Blade heel also has a galaxy of top celebrities who are often seen wearing them on the red carpet. As the name suggests, the shoe design is a blade-like with a sharp, high spike of a heel. Can you talk about how the Blade was conceived and the engineering and craftsmanship behind the shoe design?
The Blade is definitely the epitome of what I've been discussing at the beginning of our conversation. The, let's say, conversation that we have within our family about shoes. We are very passionate about that.
I'm sure.
And therefore, the Kerr that was generated by the Blade between my father and grandfather has been something that pushed my father to even more believe in the making of this heel. It's from it's a piece of engineer and a work of art, I would say, because it's still today made by artisanal hands, even though it's within our production, of course. It took 7 months to have it made and to have the perfect balance between the thin heel and the way that it has to support. Therefore, the razor sharp silhouette is definitely something that has been a challenge. The heels are usually made of plastic materials, while this one has a stainless steel sole within the heel that allows our women to walk successfully wearing them all day. So definitely the celebration of the 10th year has been a milestone with it for our company, because it's a signature heel that is still relevant for us as a brand and recognized globally. I would say that the beauty of the Blade is something that is still, modern, even though it's been designed a decade ago. And in order to keep on mentioning how forward it was, we wanted to express that kind of futuristic vision, partnering with a partner for the launch of the NFT capsule collection,
right,
that we launched in September last year.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Last year, to celebrate that milestone, the 10-year milestone, you released a limited run wearable NFT. Each customer purchasing the NFT was offered an avatar to play in the metaverse platform, Decentraland. Can you talk about that venture a little bit more?
Of course, it was a phygital project. Therefore, you could have not only the NFT, but also the physical item if you wanted. And we launched it on several platforms, on our social media, the press, and then obviously the 3.0 world. And creating the Decentraland experience has been particularly important for us, since we wanted to dive into Cesare's mind when he was working on the Blade, and therefore the experience has been immersive, in a sense that it was not only a walk through the past of Casadei, but also in Cesare's mind from a creative perspective.
So should we expect more Web3 initiatives from Casadei?
We are definitely working on something more in the future, because if we we were just testing the waters. It has been interesting for us to also approach a new community, new customers, which they don't have the same eye-to-eye kind of conversation that we have with our regular customer base. So it has been interesting also for us to understand better the market.
CEOs of two well-known luxury retailers, one an exclusively online store and the other a well-known department store, came out recently and said that they are shifting their focus on just the top 2% wealthy customers and away from the aspirational customers. Who is your core customer and where will the growth of your business come from?
I would say that our women are independent, cosmopolitan, not afraid to take the center of stage, and therefore they could be everyone, everywhere. Obviously, the reason here has allowed us to get more in depth and more in touch within our community, but we are working on the awareness globally, because being able to share what we do on a daily basis, the behind the scene of creating a shoe, because the majority of the time we think only about the finalized product that we see on the shelves, but there's I mean, for example, within the company, I always say thank you to all the artisanal hands that have been literally working since 1958 till today. Some of them recently retired, but we have, for example, members of the same family still working together. And it's kind of a family thing, 360 degree. So in order to share that kind of feeling, it's not just the item that you see on the shelves, it's more. But we have to, be more in touch with everyone and be more specific about what we do, because there's a lot in the behind the scenes that happens that not necessarily is something that you see, especially when talking about shoes.
So what else are you doing to attract the next wave of customers, namely those who cannot afford Casadei shoes yet, but if they're paying attention, will know of the brand and perhaps eventually be able to buy them?
I would say there are, right now, fashion is pretty democratic. We have actually invested into the new payment methods on our e-commerce. We want to have more events globally in order to reach also new demographics. And I would say that overall and also, for example, the 3.0 activities, they are meant to attract not only our regular customers, but also new potential ones.
So the topic of sustainability has been gaining momentum in the footwear industry, although one hears far less about it compared to the apparel industry, especially when it comes to leather products. Why do you think that is, and where does Casadei stand?
We are still in the process of experimenting. And when we talk about luxury, obviously we talk about implicitly about something that would last across the years. So it's still a challenge to find products that will last for a long period of time. So that's the majority. And obviously, when we talk about shoes, we talk about engineer, and therefore there's a lot, that comes into play for these reasons. So I would say that as for the moment, we do have vegan materials within our collection. We do have specific teams that are working on researching new materials as well, season by season. For example, we are creating a handbag collection that is sustainable, but in order to have the green label, I'm not saying that we are there yet. There's still a lot of work to do, 360 degrees. I don't want to create a shoe in satin and slap a label on it that says, okay, this is eco, because obviously it's definitely not what the topic is at the moment.
So Arianna, my final question is the luxury item question, which I ask all my guests. So if you were stranded on a deserted island and you can only have one single luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air or water transportation to get you off that island, or anything that requires mobile service so you can call somebody to get you off that island. What would that one single luxury item you would like to have with you?
It would be a blade pump because it serves as a weapon of seduction and as a weapon itself. So if I have to open like a coconut, it would be helpful, I think.
Arianna Casadei, CEO of Casadei, thank you so much for joining me on The Luxury Item.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story and the passion that we share for shoes.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.